The First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, has described the treatment of the UK's ambassador to Washington as shameful. Sir Kim Darroch is quitting, saying the row over his leaked cables, which were critical of Donald Trump, has made it impossible for him to do his job. From Westminster, here's our chief political correspondent, Glenn Campbell.
When the First Minister was last in Washington, she was fully briefed by the UK ambassador she's now defending. Sir Kim Darroch is quitting after his frank assessments of the US government were leaked, prompting a barrage of criticism from President Trump. In last night's leadership debate, Jeremy Hunt robustly defended the ambassador and promised to keep him in post. His predecessor as Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson, chose not to do so.
I alone will decide who takes important and politically sensitive jobs, such as the UK ambassador to the US.
A lack of support that friends of Sir Kim say left him with little option but to quit.
Questions to the Prime Minister.
A decision announced just before Prime Minister's question time.
It's a pity that the former Foreign Secretary, the candidate for leadership in the Tory party, did not stand up for our leading diplomat.
On social media, the First Minister went further. It is shameful that Kim Darroch has effectively been forced out for doing the job that diplomats are appointed to do, she said. Boris Johnson's failure last night to stand up for him and stand up to the behaviour of Donald Trump spoke volumes. Back at Westminster, this Scottish MP on the Foreign Affairs Committee blames Boris Johnson for the ambassador's exit.
Well, he's obviously been stabbed in the back by the former Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson on national television last night, and therefore he's been left with little choice.
Visiting a London pub, Mr Johnson wasn't toasting Sir Kim's exit. Instead, he expressed regret, and his backers said the ambassador had to go.
There has to be a relationship of trust. We know that that's how diplomacy works, is through trust and in confidence. And if you lose that, particularly with the President of the United States, then I think that was the game up.
Another Scottish Conservative backing Boris Johnson, who doesn't want to be named, accuses him of a dereliction of duty for not defending Sir Kim Darroch, an ambassador forced out by the wrath of a thin-skinned US president, and it seems by the decision of a would-be Prime Minister not to stand up to him. Glenn Campbell reporting Scotland, Westminster.
Well, our Westminster correspondent David Porter is outside the House of Commons for us this evening. David, what are they saying where you are?
Well, Sally, for a story about one of the UK's most senior diplomats, there has been some very undiplomatic language between London and Washington over the last few days, culminating today in the resignation of Sir Kim Darroch. Let's just remind ourselves how all this happened. At the weekend, the newspaper published emails from Sir Kim where he had spoken about the Trump administration. He said it was inept and dysfunctional. That led to a very furious response from the president himself. He described Sir Kim Darroch, the ambassador, as wacky, as a pompous fool, and as someone who could not work with the US administration. It all culminated today in the resignation of Sir Kim Darroch. Very rarely does a story unite different political parties and different politicians. That has happened today at Westminster and indeed in Scotland, where, as we've heard, the First Minister has taken to social media, Nicola Sturgeon supporting Sir Kim Darroch. Also, the leader of the Scottish Conservatives, Ruth Davidson, has very publicly supported Sir Kim Darroch as well. There is a feeling amongst some here at Westminster that the front-runner in the Tory leadership contest, Boris Johnson, could have done more to support the diplomat. Indeed, some of his own supporters feel that he has not covered himself in glory on this one. Others say it is a case of realpolitik. If Donald Trump said he was not going to work with the UK ambassador, then basically the ambassador had to go, and that's what has happened.
David, thank you very much for that.